Greetings, Arisen. What makes Dragon's Dogma? Like, if I go to the Steam listing and I look at the popular user-defined tags, it says it's an open-world RPG, action RPG, fantasy, and single-player. But if I select any one of those tags, I'll find games that are nothing like Dragon's Dogma. They might have similarly defining traits, like let's click on open world, Red Dead Redemption 2, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Cyberpunk. If I click on RPG, then of course we'll probably see Baldur's Gate 3 in here, God of War, Final Fantasy 15, action RPG, got Borderlands 4. I mean, any kind of game can fall into these categories. I think the issue is that the categories are so broad that trying to describe Dragon's Dogma using any of these subgenres or primary genres is going to fall short. If I tried to describe Dragon's Dogma to someone who'd never heard about it before, then I would have to use these terms like, oh, it's an open world action RPG where you create a party system based on other people's multiplayer party. It's a little complicated, and I've actually run into this issue because I've had to describe it to my wife. She's like, you beat this game already. Why are you playing it again? It's like, well, it's complicated, and then I get out the billboard and start talking about it. But what I think is funny is that even Isuno-san recognizes that the game is very difficult to describe. He mentions this at the GDC conference in 2013, that he had a very difficult time describing the game to his peers and to the stakeholders who he was trying to convince to take on the project. And then even now, like, there was a Dragon's Dogma 2 interview where he tries to describe the game using modern terms, and he says that it's a single-player online party-based action game. That's how he summarizes all the tags into one title. Oh, before we get started, if you're new here, my name is Calzin, and my goal with this channel is to encourage kindness and positivity in the gaming community by talking about games that I love and what we can gain from those as human beings. If this kind of content interests you, if you love Dragon's Dogma and you want to see more gameplay videos or commentary on it, if you feel so inclined, hit the subscribe button, hit the little like thing, whatever, down there. With that said, let's get started. I was inspired to make this video because of Mighty Melvo, who's a Dragon's Dogma YouTuber, and he's made a bunch of great content on Dragon's Dogma, good commentary and great perspectives. I recommend you check him out. But one of the things that he said in his video on this topic is that it's the experience that it gives you. It's a combination of the mechanics that create a unique experience that is memorable as a result of the friction. And in that video, he also asked the question, why are there no other games like Dragon's Dogma? Why are there no other games that are Dogma-Likes in that way? I think in order to nail down exactly what makes Dragon's Dogma unique, because it does have a lot of different elements, like it has the party system, but there's plenty of games with a party system, like Age Inquisition, which is also a great game. It has a party system, but those party members are created by the developers and have very specific inclinations and everything, and there's no control on the character side over what they do, essentially. I mean, you can swap characters and you can play as them, but you can't really customize them very much like you can with a pawn. A pawn you create from scratch, and you can change their class at will and everything like that. I remember one of the first party-based games that I ever played was actually one of the first games I ever played on PC, and that was Dungeon Siege. The part that I loved about that game, and it's an isometric dungeon crawling RPG, kind of like Diablo. It's like a bargain bin Diablo. It's a live-action RPG, so it's not turn-based, and you can pick up different party members. You can also select who you want to go with you and customize their abilities as well. So the classes were customizable to that degree, similar to Dragon's Dogma. But it's nothing like Dragon's Dogma. The only corollary with that is that it can be classified as an action RPG and that it had a party system. But Dragon's Dogma is a complete different experience. Well, the best way to figure out how to describe what Dragon's Dogma is and why it's so unique is to go to the source. So we're going to the source. There is a wonderful video on YouTube that I saw a few years ago. It's called Behind the Scenes of Dragon's Dogma. And it's from the Game Developer Conference in 2013, where Hideaki Itsuno actually comes up and talks about the development of Dragon's Dogma and how it became what it is today. And I think he made some very interesting points. The first one of them being, him and his team had never created a role-playing game before. Role-playing games in Japan were all turn-based stuff. There was some like Action Time Battle back then in the early thousands when he conceived this idea. But I think the main thing is, one, they they were unfamiliar with RPGs. 2, they were unfamiliar with open world games, so this was completely new to them and their team. And especially in Japan, open world games were not really a popular thing back then. You know, you have overworld, but that's not the same as open world. And then 3, it was heavily inspired by Devil May Cry. Apparently, Itsuno-san loves fighting games and was the director for Devil May Cry 2 onward up until 5. He says in this video that what he wanted to do was create a combat system that is similar to a fighting game, but in 3D with this action RPG DNA. So what they did was the Devil May Cry development team created Dragon's Dogma under Itsuno's guidance, using those techniques from action games to create the combat for Dragon's Dogma, which is why it feels so good. It feels so punchy and reactive. The parrying, the jumping, the kind of like anime style fighting, it feels so good because it's inspired by action games. That's one of the main pillars of the development. The primary pillar, however, is not the combat and it's not the open world. It was the idea of what he called a BBS RPG. That was the initial name for the project, a bulletin board system role-playing game where you can hire other people's characters. That was the core concept for the game. And this is why the pawn system is so integrated within the lore, within every aspect of the game that you play. There are some people I've seen that play the game solo, but for me, that robs the identity of the game severely. Because one of the main pillars of the game that makes the game is the pawn system. So this BBS RPG system, the idea for it was inspired apparently by internet forums, bulletin boards, where people talk to each other and they can help each other with certain issues. So like on a gaming forum, you know, someone may post something, hey, I need help solving this, and then someone can reply and help them out. That was the idea of the pawn system, is that you can hire someone who has experience with this particular quest, and then they can help you with that quest, which is like no other game does this. No other game has a system where you can take a companion in your game, take them on a quest, and then that AI companion actually ingests the information from that quest or ingests the information from defeating an enemy, and then can be hired by someone else who needs that quest knowledge in order to achieve the quest more easily or defeat that enemy better. No other game does this. That's what primarily makes it unique, combined with the action combat system. I highly recommend you watch this behind the scenes video. He reveals all kinds of stuff about the development of the original Dragon's Dogma game. He talks about the original ideas for the game being parallel worlds and being able to visit those worlds and stuff like that. But he indicates that at least half of the content for the game was cut. Half of the map was cut. It was originally supposed to be an island and became a peninsula, and they cut all these quests, all these regions, some of the mechanics and a lot of the story. They cut all this stuff because that's the process of developing a piece of software. So when I think about this, you know, I work in software development as part of my job, and so I'm familiar with storyboarding, creating milestones and epics, and then going through the process to complete those milestones in order to reach the end product and satisfy the stakeholders, the people who are invested in that product. We have milestones to hit, and we have tasks within those milestones to complete. For a game, this could be mechanics. Our milestones are, we want to complete the combat system, we want to complete this number of environments in the game, and so on. But the issue that we always run into in every software development, as you get closer to the target date, some of the timelines might increase for some milestones or some tasks over others that you were not expecting, and then you have to cut things in order to make your deadline. That's just basic software development, and unfortunately, Dragon's Dogma, it was so ambitious with all of its systems that half of the game was cut. And with Dragon's Dogma 2, we can see that that happened again. It is very clear to me, based on playing Dragon's Dogma 2 from end to end, that a lot of the content in that game has been cut as well. Just because of the budget, I'm sure. Capcom probably gave a very set budget for the game based on the performance of the previous game and giving them a budget based on those projections. It's unfortunate that a game like Dragon's Dogma doesn't have unlimited resources like for something like a Rockstar game. I would love to see a fully realized, complete version of Dragon's Dogma, but it's probably never going to happen just because of the time and money constraints. But yeah, so according to the creator, the things that make this game unique is that it's not primarily an open world game. It's not primarily a role-playing game. It's primarily a bulletin board system with custom mercenary characters using an online intermediary packaged in a third-person action game that happens to be in an open world. So I think that's what makes it unique, is that it doesn't focus on those other aspects of what other games do. If it's an open world and they try to make it feel like a living, breathing world. If it's a role-playing game, they try to make the systems deep and they try to create characters that you can make relationships with. But what I like about Dragon's Dogma is that it touches on those aspects, but what it does well, it does incredibly well. What I also love about it is that you can just see the passion for the project in the satisfaction of the gameplay. Like, it is just, it's so mature in terms of the movement, the animations. When I'm fighting an enemy, it doesn't feel incomplete. I don't feel like, oh, I wish I could do this or that. In a lot of games, I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over, but in Dragon's Dogma, I don't. You know, in Skyrim, for example, came out around the same time as Dragon's Dogma, 1 year before Dragon's Dogma, the original one. The combat is extremely simple. You know, you got like 3 or 4 different types of attacks. The magic is just not punchy. It's all kind of the same feeling stuff. Lightning magic feels the same as fire magic and ice magic. You know, it's like it's push out your hands and do that. But the combat in Dragon's Dogma feels like a fighting game. It's like an easier fighting game. And part of me does wish that it was just a little more complex in terms of difficulty. Sometimes I feel like I'm just too strong. But maybe that's also the appeal of the game, is that it's a power fantasy. But whatever Dragon's Dogma is, at the end of the day, you know, I am happy with it. I'm happy that we got to play it. As gamers, I am overjoyed that this game exists. If it never existed, then I would never know the joys of a bulletin board system RPG. You know, and who knows, nobody may have come up with that idea before. But what I hope is that system, the pawn system, is conceived of again. That another developer decides, you know what, let's try our hand at this. Let's create another game that uses this system. And that might also inspire another great game that is a Dogma-like just by virtue of having that pawn system, that custom mercenary character system in it, and having those action combat mechanics. Even if it's not open world, you know, if it's a stage-to-stage system, it could still be a very fun game, a very fun experience. So the core and the heart, I think what we've learned here, the core and the heart of the game is the pawn system. That's the guiding principle that brings everything together. And without it, it's Devil May Cry in an open world. So... All right. With that said, thank you for watching. Be kind to one another. Go play a good game like Dragon's Dogma or Dragon's Dogma 2, and delight in the development process that brings us such wonderful experiences. I'll see you next time.